My name is Solly with the Hollywood Times, and this is Mr. Daniel Suhr.
Yeah. Hi. Well, thanks. I'm from Scotts Valley. I'm a Democrat. I'm running for governor here in California.
So, why are you running for the governor of California?
Well, I've gotten frustrated with what I see the Democratic Party doing, and I think like they're making a lot of different mistakes, and I want to try to change that. And I don't really have a lot of confidence that the leadership is going to do the right thing when it comes to it. And, I don't think that we're doing it right now with Prop 50, and I think that we need to kind of do a better job or a different job. And I've read a lot of history books these last couple of years just because of some challenges that I've had. And so I feel like a lot of the solutions that we need are already in our history books, and we have to learn from those and apply those. And I think that we can do a much better job.
I agree with you.
Right. Yeah. I think I was a Republican when I was 18. And then when I was around 2004 or 2006, I switched over and have just sort of been a voting Democrat and hoping for the best for the party. And it seems like it's kind of gone astray right now in a way. And so that's why I've decided to throw my hat in the ring and try it out for the next 9 months or 8.5 now. There's the primaries early June and see what I can do.
Can you go into detail about your policy of rent stability?
Yeah. So we have a lot of homeless people in California, like 180,000, I think is the last figure that I've seen. And we also have a lot of people that, are renting. I think about 45% are renting, 55% own their home. And it's just kind of a chaotic time where we people are talking about the cost of living rising, which it has been, and the ever going up cost of rent. And I think that we need a way to try to solve kind of a number of these things all at once, like a number of these issues. And the thing that I've worked in finance, and the thing that has jumped out to me is that people who are renting, I've been renting my entire adult life. And every year, basically, there's like the new lease comes up. The prior one expires and you have to sign a new one usually. And, most all of us do it. And it's like, rent goes up
And
like
they
a
raise
hundred
the
bucks.
prices, right?
Yeah, it's like goes up $100 a month. But it's interesting that you say that because if the price isn't good, what are your options if you're a renter? You have to move out and go find a new place. And that also costs money. And
See,
so every time like that I've had to, when the rent goes up, I just have to sign it unless I'm planning on moving someplace else because there's just not a lot of other options. And so I think that what we need to do is to combine like a market-based policy with also sort of like a realistic way to help out people who are stable. And to do that would be to say basically when your rent renews or when the lease would come up, you're allowed, there's no new lease basically, like it's a permanent lease. So each year it just kind of rolls over to the next one. And the reason that we have the 1 year lease is so that the landlord generally can either imply that they're going to kick you out or raise the rent, and you either have to be kicked out or you have to accept the new rent. And so that would be a way to reward people who are stable. And I think that right now it would be people who are stable, who can reliably pay their rent every month, deserve to be supported. And that there's one way to help people who are, middle income or lower middle income or lower income is to say, look, if you're able to hold down your stuff, hold down your business, pay your rent and be stable, then you deserve support from the government. You deserve to have the ability to know that you can live where you're living for as long as you want. And so it would be, a change a little bit for the landlord, especially for people who own like an investment property. But I think if people think about kind of the implications for our whole country of being able, and, obviously just California right now, but to be able to say that all you have to do is pay your rent and feed yourself and you're going to be fine. You're not going to be kicked out and the rent's not going to go up. And the best example of that is so in California, the rent can still go up about 5% a year, plus another 1 or 2 or 3% for like cost of living and inflation. So 7% a year, if your lease is $2,000 a month or 3,000, it's about 3,000 where I live a month, which is a lot of money. So that's still 210,000 a year at 7% or $210 a year or a month. And that's a huge increase. That's basically what the stock market returns. And so if you say, "Oh, we're going to help out people by raising the minimum wage," well, it's not going to help because your rent's going to keep going up. We're going to help out people by paying more for this, or they're going to get more wages for that. It's not going to help long term because your rent is going to keep going up. And so we need to find a way to stop the ever going up cost of rent without also just taking the free market out of it. And so that's my policy to try to help people out and actually give them more cash and money left at the end of each month.
See, that's why I said run as a Republican because you're gonna do really good with the Republicans because that's a really good proposal.
Well, thanks, man. I think that the Democratic Party, it is kind of a liberal policy, at least from a fiscally, and I think that we just my party needs help right now. They don't really know what to do. They've got people all kind of around the nation trying different things. And, Mr. Newsom here isn't really proposing much of anything. He's focusing on trying to run for president eventually and the redistricting stuff. And I'm saying, well, we still have problems here that we should work on. And, what I want is for California to be doing so well that people around the country say, hey, the Democratic Party is doing a great job over there. We should give them another chance nationally. And I think the way to help out all the Democrats across our country is to have California do better, to provide stability and also a way to end homelessness and help out, to an actual policy that would help out with cost of living changes. So I'm trying to help my
So,
party out. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see.
before 2009, there was a healthcare system based on free markets. Romney implemented it in Massachusetts, and that became Obamacare pretty much. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think the overall impetus was good that, there are people who just, low income or really low income or no income, or they have some sort of disastrous health situation going on. And, we're at a place in our society where we do have the medical resources for taking care of most everybody, or if not everybody. And so I thought that it was a good policy and it has helped out. I was on for the last 4 years before I had like a chronic leg injury and then I had a central nervous system problem. And so I was like really down and out and I was using the like essentially Obamacare. Like I had state managed medical insurance. And without it, I don't know what I would have done. If I didn't get the care, I'd probably be dead now. And so I did. And now I'm trying to come back and I'm trying to return the favor and the help, But so I think it was a good policy. And I think that we should also try to keep in mind that, it was used to help people out and not try to cram so many extra things in there or so many optional medical treatments that it ends up blowing up the whole system. And then we go back to 20 or 30 years ago.
What do you think of grocery um stores in big cities managed and subsidized by the national government? I mean, the state government to keep costs low.
Yeah, it's a new policy idea. I don't know that it'll work. It doesn't really sound like it'll work, but we don't know, And so if Mr. I know that if in New York City they end up doing that, I guess we'll have to see. I mean, part of it is an experimental democracy, so we'll see what the results are. It does seem like it's just more government policies. It might be better to try to get ways for people to earn more money, through wages. And then if they do that, they can decide to spend their money wherever they want, at a grocery store or fast food or whatever, or move to a different area. So I don't know that there are problems in New York City. After I read, there's a couple of books I want to read. One of them is Power Broker about the history of New York City. And once I've read that, and there was another one called Gotham about New York State. And once I've done those, I'll probably be able to comment a little bit more about the city. But right now, I don't think it's being proposed in California. And so I guess we'll see. We'll sort of see if that gets implemented and what it looks like. And sometimes policies have unintended negative side effects that take years or, decades to really surface. And I do I do suspect there might be negative side effects to that policy, so we'll have to see.
So, what are your thoughts on undocumented immigrants?
Well, I've heard this number going around that there's, 15 million people in America that are basically here like that. They came across the border legally, whatever. So on the one hand, like I admire the toughness and the desire of somebody who says, I'm going to move to this other country, maybe they don't even speak the language and they're just going to fight it out and tough it out and look for kind of whatever work there is. I know there was people near where you live. If you're in Georgia, there was the Koreans at a automotive factory near you guys, which is, closer to Georgia. And so on the one hand, I kind of respect that, and there's a human element. On the other hand, as a government, I got frustrated with with the Biden administration because we had the House as the Democrats, we had the Senate, we had the presidency, and basically didn't do much to change what the policies or in the enforcement level or even really articulate a policy overall. And it's kind of led to this disaster where there's President Trump is like enforcing things very, very aggressively. Um, and there's a lot of shock over it all. And the Democratic Party still hasn't really said what they're going to do. So I do think the number of people here, illegally, it does need to go down. Or is Mr. Trump at times seems to do things intentionally in a rude way and intentionally to rile people up. Well, they won the election. And so that's kind of what's going to happen for a while, until the next presidency. And so I do think that we need to find ways to persuade or ask at least a portion of the immigrants to go back to their country of origin. It doesn't mean that it's permanent, doesn't mean that it needs to be done so rudely, but the voters have spoken, and ignoring that is just going to make things worse. I also think that maybe we need to think about what the different levels of, you know, residency are. Like, all right, so there's the legal resident who's not a citizen, who's sort of on the path to become a citizen. They're applying for it. Should there be another one, a non-citizenship path for people that are here, they want to do the work, and they're sick of their prior country? So I think that if I win and I have more information about the whole system, that I do think that we need another way to make it so that people aren't here, illegally, or they say it's a civil violation, so it's not illegal, but it's undocumented. It's like, well, whatever we call it, we need to at least come up with ways to try to decrease the overall temperature of the whole thing. And I also think that the border does need to be more secure. I mean, we have ways to try to track every vehicle that comes across, from Canada and Mexico or anywhere. We have ways to try to track using biometric information a lot of different people that aren't our citizens and make sure that they're leaving, staying or leaving or what exactly the rules are. But the Democratic Party, we've done a bad job of articulating our positions and trying to find ways that satisfy the voters, and it's been a major weakness. And I think that, you know, there's always going to be some portion, I think, of people that are here they're not legally, but the Democratic Party is just as responsible as Republicans, I think, for what's going on right now, and we need to acknowledge that and come up with better policies and try to satisfy a portion of the Republican voters so that they're not so angry and so one-sided. And being a single issue voters are tough for us as a country, and so I do think the Democratic Party needs to do a lot better.
I feel like the Obama and Biden administration reminded me too much of Reagan's administration for it to be functional.
Well, I think Mr. Obama did a lot of good things, I felt, and he was steady, he was reliable, he's charismatic, and he made people feel good about our country based on like its principles, our Constitution, trying to be a country of laws, things like that. And I think that the Reagan administration, I'm reading a book about them right now. Right now, it's focused on his time as governor, and I'll eventually get to the presidency. But being able to just remind people of the good things that we do have in our country. Things are a lot worse in other places in the world. There's a lot of places that don't have free speech at all. They don't have, the right to bear arms. They don't have a lot of different things. And so he also was able to just make us grateful about those things. And gratitude is a good emotion. Like it helps with a lot of problems in one's life. Sorry, I've got a little bit of the hiccups almost. So I think that it was good. I don't think the Biden administration was nearly as optimistic, I guess, or as inspirational as Mr. Obama and Mr. Reagan. I think there's a lot of evidence that I believed in Joe Biden. I really did. And I've been reading books about his administration now, and I think he did have a lot of cognitive decline or just not the ability to really work that much. And the presidency is it's a full-time, 7 days a week job, basically, where there's an almost unlimited capacity to do good things. And so I do feel really almost like I was intentionally deceived about what Mr. Biden was capable of, and it bothered me. I tried to have a protest. So his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, was coming to Santa Cruz, and I tried to have a protest here. I didn't want Democrats to just let what the Biden family did slide. I don't think that they deserve to really be supported right now, and I don't want what Mr. Biden did to happen again. I don't want somebody to have cognitive decline in the White House, and if Mr. Trump starts to have that, or he starts to become more erratic, the Democratic Party, we're not going to have credibility to really call him out because every Trump supporter is going to say, well, you guys didn't do anything when Mr. Biden was president. And they're going to be
I
right.
feel it.
So,
I feel like FDR won 4 straight elections, and I feel like going to the left and helping people would be better than trying to negotiate with people who don't want to negotiate with you.
yeah, FDR did. Herbert Hoover basically they said made the country a democratic country because they were so opposed still to some of the policies that Woodrow Wilson put into place. And that deficit spending, when you're in a crisis, it is a little counterintuitive, but it does help. And then Truman went on to win another one. So that was 5 Democratic presidencies in a row. But the issues and the technology and everything have changed since then. And I do think that FDR and Reagan and Obama, what they really all did was they were trying to be sincere and they were trying to help. And I think with Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, there's a lot of people that think that maybe they're not perceived to be as sincere as some of those other great presidents. And so, yeah, FDR is he did a lot of good stuff. Not everybody loved him, but it was also just a crazy time. And I think he worked himself to death when he passed
Four,
away in 44,
excuse me,
early,
but 4 straight elections. Not
yeah,
everybody likes them. 4 straight
yeah.
elections. I'm just saying.
In 45, it's a tough job and it could benefit from a lot. And so I think the other thing is Mr. Biden didn't do much as president. And so I do think having a president who cares and is willing to work hard for either party is probably better than a president who's lethargic and just doesn't really do much, take advantage of the opportunity.
By the Texas legislator.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think
Oh, that
that
was very frustrating. All right, so the Texas government is, redistricting in the middle of the decade. Okay, that's violating our tradition, I guess, or democratic norms. All right, so it's 5 seats. That's not that big of a deal. And I don't think that the Democratic Party should just throw that away or disregard that and also gerrymander. We can't say, well, gerrymandering is bad, but if Republicans do it, then we're going to do it too. I don't think that that's a way to lead the country. And I have faith in the American people that they would reward us, Democrats, by not, if we don't gerrymander and we say we're going to focus on winning elections. Voters changed. In 1964, Democrats won they had an enormous House majority and the Senate and the White House. And 4 years later, uh, Nixon is elected. And then in 72, the Republicans win every state but one. And so voters change, policies change, stuff like that. Like we're thinking so short term and Mrs. Obama said once, she said, when they go low, we go high. And I really like that. And now it seems like when they go low, we go lower. I don't understand how we're supposed to differentiate ourselves from Mr. Trump and Republicans when we just do everything that they do. And sometimes we do it first. It's like, I think we should at least be trying to have principles and ideals and be willing to take a short-term negative for a long-term benefit. And we've just kind of lost that. And it just seems, I disagree with that. And So we'll see. The election for Prop 50, not the election, the voting for it is maybe 6 weeks away, I think, seven. So it's coming up. It'll pass, and I'm fine with if my position loses out, that's fine. I want to have principles first and then policy second, not the other way around.
So, would you keep the kid running the social media for Gavin Newsom? He's funny.
It is funny. And I liked it. I was like, hey, this is something new. So I haven't been, at times I've been a little frustrated with Mr. Newsom, but I saw that and I was like, dude, this is pretty hilarious. And it was cool. It's social media, it's whatever, and I don't know, I found it pretty funny, and it's gotten me liking Mr. Newsom. What'll happen long term, I don't know, but it really smacked me in the face when I first saw that in a good way, and I was like, wow, okay, this we got somebody here, and so it's cool. I think that give that kid a medal, whoever it is.
So, would you keep him on?
Yeah, it's funny, man. And it's just I don't know, it's almost therapeutic to read some of that stuff. And it was cool. So chalk up one for Mr. Newsom, man. That was cool. And I
Heck
hope it
yeah.
keeps going. Let's see what else we got we could come up with. So it showed creativity and like a clarity of thought in a very human way. And so I like it. It was cool.
Why do you care so much about capitalizing the word white?
Oh yeah. It's it seems like it is discrimination, and it seems like an easy thing to do or to
I
cap. I don't really
mean,
care about just white. I care about like every cultural group and or ethnic group and race should. And it just seems like a simple thing that we can all do to be against discrimination, basically. And we've kind of
it
as a
just
party,
also seems like it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
I think you're right. It doesn't really matter. And or it certainly doesn't it shouldn't matter to capitalize all of it. And I say that because so I've emailed various journalists and stuff and I leave comments and no one is willing to change. Either they just ignore me or they respond and they say no, they want it to be that way. And so I think that if we're as a party we're trying to say treating people differently based on race is bad, or is negative, we don't want to discriminate, then we should do this. And what I would say to people who are wanting to treat the races differently or racial groups differently is this what this costs us as a party, I think. It's a dog whistle racism type of thing. And it irritates, I think, a lot of people in our country.
Whoa, 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 whoa. No, I am going to push back on that.
Okay.
Just no.
On which part? That it's like a
Dog
dog
whistle
whistle.
racism.
Yeah.
You know what dog whistle racism is?
Yeah. What why do you it seems to me like it would be an easy would you let me ask you this, would you
I
capitalize
mean,
white and
it,
brown and all racial groups?
I would capitalize it. I wouldn't capitalize any of them.
What about so you would capitalize some and not capitalize others?
No, I wouldn't capitalize any of them, but I wouldn't categorize it as racism either.
Well, it is discriminating. And I think that part of the
It's
reason
just
why
a word, man.
well, if it is just a word, I'd love it if you would make a change and do that. If it's a small thing, will you make a sacrifice and start capitalizing everything so we can move on to more important issues?
Or start decapitalizing everything.
That's going to be tough to do. Uh, and it seems like it would be an easy, like a small change. I guess it's a sacrifice for some people, but it would give us credibility. It'd be great to say, we're as a party, we're focusing on the biggest issues. We're going to sacrifice some of the smaller ones so that we can get back to a place of authority and credibility. And people are very resistant to when I propose that, but there's also a lot of people that support it. And it just seems like if we're, you know, for example, in his earlier books before he was president, Mr. Obama, lowercase, white and black and brown. But now he capitalizes some racial groups and not others. And I think it would be good to treat them all the same, like he did when he was running for office. I know that
I
now he's
think
not
it would
running and
be
he,
good.
sorry?
I think it would be good, but it's also freedom of speech by their end.
Yeah, it is. It's,
They can do
it's
whatever they want, you
right.
know?
I agree. Would it be a good way to sort of show that we're trying to turn down some of the rhetoric and the divisiveness by doing that? I think so. And I think there's evidence that the Democratic Party, in the 60s was against discrimination, but now some of these things have kind of crept into our thinking, and uh, people seem to support treating them differently. When I've asked authors or writers to not do it, they don't change.
Okay, this has been Solly with the Hollywood Times with Mr. Daniel Suhr running for governor of California. Hope you win.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for reaching out, and hopefully we can do another one of these later. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes.
All right.